Hey, it's Juck today.
Juck,
Juck,
not
Juck,
junk, Juck,
Judd,
Juck on Bucks. So junk is junk. Juck is
Juck,
gonna Juck is junk is junk. Juck,
Juck,
not junk.
Juck.
Juck, Juck. I will get.
And I don't think he's going to throw the ball as much as he thinks he's going to throw the ball now that Chip Kelly's on board. And I'm happy about that. More quarterback. The truth is, Ryan Day has made a change philosophically, but it's none of those. You all know who wins. LSU is the drunkest fan base in the country. And welcome in. Coming to you from South Carolina. I am got my road equipment going, but I broke my microphone. I brought it. I went through all the hassle of packing all this gear up, and I broke the microphone literally 10 minutes before I sat down in this chair. So not in transit. I broke it myself. A real bummer. So I tried to use the phone as a microphone because I heard you can do that now. Didn't sound as good as just the regular MacBook Pro. So if the audio is less than stellar, I apologize, but I got some things I need to get off my chest. And I don't know if I'll be able to get it all done before I have to go to my cousin's wedding. So I'm down here on a family trip for a wedding, and I'm just doing a 3-day weekend. But anyway, Uncle Mark from Wisconsin said that he's been watching Juck on Bucks, or I think he said Juck the Buck. And I'm totally full of blue mud, which is the family version of full of crap. And he expects nothing less from a Luckeye. I don't really know where this Luckeye stuff comes from, but everybody else seems to say it. I've never understood it. I feel like I could rattle off 5 instances of bad luck for every 1 instance of good luck that we've had. But I got an interesting stat for you. So in the playoff era, so the 14 playoff for the last 10 years, I can't do this with the headphones here. I can't do it. It's just not right. It's not right without the microphone. It doesn't sound right. Everything's off. In the last 10 years, the 14 playoff era, what Power 5 team has won the most games without making the playoffs? So the last 10 years, 14 playoff era, what Power 5 team has won the most games without making the playoffs? And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking what I'm thinking, what I thought. But you're not right, because you're thinking Penn State. But the answer is Uncle Mark's Badgers. Would you believe that? Wisconsin has won more games than Penn State in the last 10 years. And I was blown back. I had to go back. I didn't believe the stat. I had to go back and literally count the games myself. Penn State versus Wisconsin, the last 10 years. And it's true. 90 wins for Wisconsin, 88 for Penn State. Their first 6 years starting in 14. So they had the first year of the last 10 was under Gary Anderson. And then you had Paul Christ for 8 and Luke Fickell for 1. And they went 11, 10, 11, 13, 8, then back up to 10. Then in COVID, they went 4-3, then 9 wins, then 7 Paul Christ last year, and 7 Fickell for a total of 90 wins. So they've not been down long, but it just feels to me like they've been down a whole lot longer than that. And Penn State just feels like the team that's been screwed the most in the playoffs to me. So I was really surprised, totally surprised. I don't know about you, but I thought it's been quite a bit longer that Wisconsin's been down. But I'm rooting really hard for Fickell, and not just because he's our guy, but because if he becomes an upper echelon coach at Wisconsin, and the time comes when we need a coach, we're just going to have a ready-made stud who wants to come home. And Uncle Mark's not going to like that. Well, too bad, Uncle Mark. How do you like those apple 10 Wisconsins? But he told me he used to do the show for 20 minutes, and now it's sometimes like an hour and a half. And it's true. I remember 3.5 months ago when I started, I was struggling to get over the 20-minute mark. I mean, my nerves were crazy. It was incredibly difficult for me. And now we routinely get over an hour, sometimes longer than that. And I no longer get comments that I need to do the show longer. which I just want to add, guys, like I'm just one guy. So if it's two guys, then you get double the, like if you and I are both talking about a topic, what was that? If you and I are both talking about a topic and I add my 10 minutes of conversation and then you add yours, well, that's a 20-minute conversation. But if I'm doing it myself, it's only 10. So it's harder for me to make it longer, right? I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying, like, with a partner, it goes a little longer. But I'm doing better. I'm doing better at it, I promise. But I'm really proud of that because it means my comfort's improved a little bit. I'm staying active, getting the reps, and it's a big day for Juck on Bucks. And I owe you all a huge thank you, all my Buckeye family. So we have hit 5,000 subscribers, and that's just incredible. I can't thank you guys enough. I'm really humbled by all the encouragement. And if you haven't subscribed, and 60% of you have not, according to the data, I mean, I think it'd be a lot cooler if you did. I just do. But please like and please turn on the notifications because I don't have a set schedule when I go live. And it usually happens when I work up enough courage to do it because it's something I'm very scared of. But, I've been working on it. I've done it twice now. I think it got a little better the second time. Or have I done it 3 times? Maybe thrice. Might be. But let's talk about our new Buckeye because we got a new Buckeye. And he happens to be an alumnus of my high school. I talked to him last night. His name's Sean Lodge. He's a wide receiver kick returner. He was at Presbyterian, and he's from St. Vincent St. Mary. He's got 2 years of eligibility left and a red shirt, return specialist, and he's going to join the team as a preferred walk-on, which means the Buckeyes still have that unofficial 80 scholarship of 85 left. So there's 5 still to play with. This is a big win for the Buckeyes to get a guy who is a return specialist, and I mean he's legit. Let's watch Sean. Now, I was surprised when he was in high school that he didn't get an opportunity to get some bigger offers, and he wound up at Presbyterian because the guy is legit. I mean, he really is. He was on the treadmill the other night, and he ran 22.8 miles per hour on the treadmill. He's an absolute burner. He's really shifty, and kick return is his game. But, he's got some really good wide receiver skills as well, and he's going to be working with the best of the best. But check him out in the return game. I mean, he's not just jitterbug, but he's got the wheels too. He can really burn. I'm always surprised when I watch lower divisions sometimes. And when you look at these guys in the secondary, like these are really good players. And it's got to make you feel better about this guy from Sacramento State who is all FCS that the Buckeyes are after. Look at those wheels, man. Sean Lodge is legit. We'll watch one more return here. I mean, that's a walk-on. That's a walk-on. That's a steal. That's an absolute steal. So congratulations to Sean Lodge. He said it's an absolute dream come true. Welcome to the fam. That is fantastic. Great for him. He's got a picture on his Twitter of him as a 4-year-old holding his Buckeye jersey. So an absolute dream come true. And nothing makes me feel better than when that happens. I absolutely love it. Coming from Presbyterian, now he's a Buckeye. Fantastic news. And he's a great kick returner. And by now, I'm sure everyone has heard the Jamie Ffrench situation. But if you haven't,
saying, look, man, it's not just Texas on top, but Texas is 1, LSU is 2, Miami is 3, and the other 2, Tennessee and Ohio State, are somewhat behind the pack. So he was very open about that. It's not really, I wouldn't say shocking. We knew every visit we went on this spring, mostly back in April and some in March as well, but really opened his eyes. He had a chance to come back, reflect, look in the mirror, talk to his family, and figure out which one fits the best and how do they feel after all of these visits. And it's not just about Jamie, but it's about his family. He takes that into account, who recruits his family well, who they feel good about. And it's a total family, I feel like, feels good about Texas right now. Chris Jackson's doing a great job, the receivers coach, Steve Sarkisian, the offense, and what Texas.
And we also heard this.
For the scavenger hunt for his official visit, 4-star running back Bo Jackson. And I think Georgia may lead for him as well out of Cleveland, Ohio.
Okay, let's start with Bo Jackson. So that's Steve Wiltfong, and he's obviously one of the most tuned-in guys in all of recruiting. And he says he thinks Georgia leads for Bo Jackson. Now, we're going to go over running back recruiting and the latest news on that and all positions later on in the show. But what Wiltfong is saying here, I am not putting any credence into at all. I don't think that there's a chance in hell that the Buckeyes are going to lose out on Bo Jackson and Marquise Davis. Not going to happen. Marquise, of course, went to Kentucky. But if they do, oh, buddy, I'm going to be just beside myself because all I wanted in this class, I didn't care about Jordan Davison. I didn't care if he was higher rated. I just wanted our two Northeast Ohio homegrown studs. And if we miss them both, I don't even want to think about it. But I'm not buying into that. I'm not buying into that at all. Let's get to Jamie Ffrench. So Jamie Ffrench, of course, 5-star receiver. I think he's the third ranked in the composite, number 3 receiver in the class. After this came out, this interview or this thing that Chad Simmons said, Mark Givler of Buckeye Huddle is doing their Southern Swing, and that's where they go down and interview a bunch of prospects. And he caught up with Jamie Ffrench yesterday, did an interview with him. So Jamie obviously realizes the stir that his top 5, when he listed his top 3 and Ohio State wasn't in there, it caused a huge stir. And yesterday he talked to Givler. So he said he's still got a real good relationship with Hartline, and he doesn't have a, quote, traditional top 3, still plans on taking all of his visits. Of course, he's from South Florida Express. Givler asked him if he's talked to Brandon, Carnell, and JJ, who also, Brandon Innes, Carnell Tate, and JJ, also played with him at South Florida Express. He said yes, he's talked to them and just gave some kind of generic answer. But, you know, he said he wants to announce in August, and Ohio State is still his last visit. He's visiting everybody else, and then he's waiting till the fall to visit Ohio State. So he is going to commit very late in the process, and he's going to have Ohio State dead last. Now, he says, I know that it's a little different, and it took a little pitch when that interview with Chad came out, and he's referring to Chad's interview, or Chad Simmons' statement there. But he said it's nothing out of the ordinary. But he's trying to say here that this took a different tone when Chad Simmons said that. This took a different tone when Jamie Ffrench, who has been all Buckeye for 2 months, came out with the top 3, and the Buckeyes weren't in it. Like, that's when it took a different tone, not from what Chad Simmons said. Listen to this statement that Steve Wiltfong wrote. There was a time, and it wasn't long ago, where Ohio State was the huge favorite for the on-3 industry 5-star Jamie Ffrench. The buzz is more around Texas now, but the dialogue remains strong with Ohio State, and Ffrench is expected back on an unofficial this summer before an official in the fall. If that stays in the script, Ohio State's position in this one remains strong. All right, so a few takeaways here. Jamie Ffrench, what a likable guy. Great personality. If you haven't seen this guy in an interview, like if you're really like out on him because of this, and I know a lot of people are, I've seen a lot of people who are like, forget this guy. Have a listen to his comments. Yes, very wishy-washy. But wow, what a likable dude. Seriously, like a really likable kid. I really like him a lot. But this is off for sure. I don't know I don't know if he's trying to get himself traction in the news. It's been slow on him. Once you kind of feel, once you're a heavy lean, the press kind of, backs off you a bit and they're moving on to the next guy. And we saw Jordan Seaton pull this a lot last year. Jordan Seaton would be all in the news, and then he would be a suspected lean to somewhere. He'd be out of the news cycle, and then he would tweet something that would throw everybody off and put himself back in the news. Is it that? I don't know. I can't imagine this is sitting well with Heartline, though. And this is what has to be absolutely just drive you insane about recruiting. Put all this time in, you think everything's going great, and you got a guy almost there, and then he comes out and throws you for a crazy loop like this, and you're not even in his top 3. Like, that's got to be infuriating. And this is kind of flaky behavior, to be honest, on Jamie's part. Now, this guy's been committed to Alabama. Then Tennessee was the leader. Then OSU was the leader for a long time. And now, out of nowhere, his top 3 is Texas, Miami, and LSU in that order. It just doesn't make any sense. But I'll be honest. I don't care if Jamie Ffrench is in this class or not, honestly. He feels a little risky right now. And in this era, when you need to kind of guard against guys that you think may be potential future transfers, does a recruit acting like this put up alarm bells as a future transfer candidate? I wonder if coaches are diagnosing things like that now. Are they factoring that in? Like, does your behavior as a recruit make me think as a coach that you may be someone who might transfer later on? Because if someone does transfer on you, not only do you lose out, you're not going to get a like talent back in the portal. And also, when you get a guy like a Jamie Ffrench in a class, you're probably not going to get a guy like a DeCorian Moore or a Kalik Lockett, because they don't generally pair up. They want to go all be the number 1 at their place. So if Jamie Ffrench is out, does it make it more likely that those 2 guys who are still, DeCorian Moore is, committed to LSU, but he's still on the market? Does it make it more likely if Ffrench is not in the class that Heartline can get a DeCorian Moore? I don't know. But I think Ohio State's going to get one of those ace receivers. They're all 3 ace receivers. They all 3 kind of stand heads and shoulders above the pack. But that second tier, wow. This class is deep. And we're going to go over later on in the show, and I'm going to show you the next 3 guys that Heartline's after. And, of course, Desi Jones in the class already. Very underrated stud out of New Jersey. He's going to be a fantastic slot receiver. But we're going to go over 3 big-time receivers that Heartline is in on big time. And if he doesn't get any of these 3 guys at the top, I still think that this receiver class is going to be excellent. He's going to be taking 4. Heck, he could get all 3 of these guys. There are some. This receiver class goes down to like number 15 of just total beasts. So does the following year. And I think wide receiver is a position that just keeps getting deeper and deeper every year. These guys are just getting more and more talented, starting working out younger at this stuff and everything they're doing to make themselves better. They're getting so good. It's just insane. And this receiver class is going to be great, whether or not it has Jamie Ffrench or not. So I'm not stressed about it one bit. All right, let's talk about some more potential transfers. So we've got the 2 safeties that we discussed earlier in the week are in town this weekend. Former Michigan State safety Jaden Mangum, 6'2", 185. He had 42 tackles last year. 2 years of eligibility left. That's great. And he was excellent in run support per PFF. Not so great in his pass defense. But, he is a depth piece for Ohio State. He's visiting Nebraska and Michigan, and he would most likely start at both of those places because Michigan does need a starter at safety. I doubt that this guy's going to end up at Ohio State. It's just, when you're that quality a guy, he's been starting at Michigan State, 9 starts last year, to come and be a depth piece at Ohio State, and he's from Michigan, it just seems more likely he's going to end up at Michigan. So I think the more likely candidate here is Cameron Broussard. That's the guy from Sacramento State, and he's also making his official visit to Ohio State this weekend and Michigan. And Chip went and saw him earlier in the week out in Folsom, California, where he's from. I don't know. He's the more likely guy, but Michigan could potentially pull both of these dudes. Or the Buckeyes could really pony up and pull a Dan Lanning move like he did with Derek Harmon from Michigan State and pony up big time and pull them both to play defense. And they could use both of them, the Buckeyes could. But Dan Lanning pulled Derek Harmon out of USC's clutches to play defense. I'm almost certain of it. Now, he can use the guy for sure, but USC really needed him. He would have made a big difference to them this year. And I think that Oregon just went and said, nah, we're buying this dude. And, that's the game you can play these days, man. That's the game you can play. So I wouldn't mind if we did it. And we could use both of these guys. They're both pretty good. Also, while in Folsom, California, Chip Kelly visited Ryder Lions. And we'll go over Ryder when we talk about quarterbacks, either today or tomorrow. But he is the number 2 quarterback in the class of 26. And he is a playmaking dude. I've got his film chalked up here. So obviously a super high-rated guy, 5-star in the composite. This guy is a dude that just extends the pocket, but looks to pass. I mean, got a lot of wheels, but just a playmaker. A lot of the Julian Sayin type stuff that we saw from him, extending the pocket, extending plays, and it's always looking downfield and making some great plays. So he's got some really fun film. We'll check him out. But I was thinking the other day, we are kind of the obsessed group of Ohio State fans. There's varying degrees. You got the Buckeye fans that you see wear the gear and maybe watch a couple games a year. Then you got people who never miss a game on Saturday, and all the way down to the crazy ones like us who are watching shows like this, following recruiting in May, right? So we're the weirdos, we're the sickos. And I was wondering what percentage of the fan base do we make up? And I just did so there's the biggest Buckeye shows on YouTube, let's say, have like 35,000 subscribers. And if we use that 13 million figure of Buckeye fans, that's 0.002%. So I'm going to go ahead and say that we make up the 0.002% of absolute Buckeye sickos who can't get enough and are fully invested all year round on the tiniest minutia of the program. Obviously, can name all the assistant coaches and talk about prospects in 2026. You know what I mean? We're the weirdos, and we're a very, very small percentage. And I know what the bulk of Buckeye fans feel about the following question. But I want to know what the 0.002% thinks about the following question. And I want to bring the person on who gives me the best argument for this on the show with me to discuss it. Now, we've discussed it before, and currently it's 50-50, has Buckeye Nation split. You can only have one this year, a win against Michigan or a national championship. It wouldn't be long ago that this would not have been 50-50, not even close. But the recent Michigan losses, the current state of Ryan Day's, quote, Michigan problem that some people feel he has, you got a team built to win a national championship this year, but you've lost 3 in a row. What do you choose? There's obviously valid arguments on both sides. You can now lose to Michigan and still win the national championship. It's not going to dash our dreams like it did so many times before, which is the other part of what made some of those Cooper losses so very painful is it not only was a loss to our rival, but totally dashed our dreams for the national championship. And, that doesn't matter anymore from that standpoint. For the most part, we can lose 2 games a year and still win the national championship. But we're just talking about this season. How important is a national championship to you? This sport was never designed around national championships. It was designed around beating your neighbor. It was designed around those local rivalries, regional conferences. National championships were voted on by a bunch of newspaper writers. And up until the 1960s, they may have taken in 1 or 2 games a year in person. And other than that, they read ticker tape scores and went by records when they voted on the national championship. And the other day, I railed against Heisman Trophy voting and how we see every year around week 9 or week 10, one guy emerge as the it candidate, and everybody just falls in line. And that's how it went with national championship voting amongst the AP and all the various different groups that voted on national championships for the first 70 years of the sport. And that's why national championships prior to the 60s and 70s are just kind of nonsense to me. Now, I believe we have the best program in the history of college football. That's what the Juck poll said when we ran all the numbers. And I didn't manipulate those numbers at all. But we are lacking in the national championship number when it comes to the upper echelon. Michigan has 12. They do. I mean, yes, 1901, 1902, 1903, all those ones that they're garbage. We know they're garbage. It was really before anybody else started playing ball. They were playing ridiculous teams, but they count. We've lost out on a lot. We've given away a lot. So are you willing to lose to Michigan again to win that national championship? Or can you just not tolerate another loss in the game? I was just thinking about this the other day, and by the time, let's say for instance, God forbid, we lose the next version of the game. We lose in 24. By the time we roll around to November of 25, it will have been 6 years since we've seen a win in the game. We last won in November of 19. 2020, that was a year to 2020, no game in COVID. A year to 21, we lost. A year to 22, we lost. A year to 23, we lost. A year to 24, it's going to be 5 years when we match up in November of 24 since we've seen a victory. And if we lose, it will be 6 years by the time we roll around to the rematch in 25 since we've seen a victory. Now, remember those days since Michigan's last beat Ohio State graphics we always used to have, and it was just huge amounts of days? Theirs, since the last time we've beat them, is getting really big. Can you stomach another loss to that for a national championship? I really want to hear these arguments, and I really want to bring somebody on the show to talk to me about it. So if you want to come on the show and talk about it with me, and we'll just have a conversation, we can even do it live and bring in some of the commenters and talk about it. Send me an email, juckonbucks@gmail.com. The person who makes the best argument, I'm going to bring you on the show. It's a really easy process. All I got to do is send you an email. All you need is a quiet room. And, hopefully you can see now that this audio isn't that bad. And that means you won't need a microphone. But if you have one, all the better. I don't think most people have a microphone laying around, but some might. We might just have another debate too while we're talking about it. So the other day I discussed Ryan Day and the fact that I do not believe he is on the, quote, hot seat with his superiors this year. I got a lot of response on that one, and I'm just going to read you one from Dick. I'm sorry, Juck. I totally disagree. If Ryan Day loses to Oregon and Michigan, he's up out of here. Unless he somehow manages to get in the playoffs and win a national championship. Appreciate the comment. It's totally fair. And I definitely know that there are a whole lot of people who disagree with me here. I don't know what the 0.002% opinion is on this. And you can tell from Dick's tone, he's not angry with me. He's angry with Ryan Day. There's pent-up animosity with Ryan Day over what he's put us through, losing those 3 games, and I get it. And that's why it's such a tough topic. So I'm trying to think about it now because there's no way in hell that should that happen, I'm going to be rational at that point. I'm very reactionary. I'm a bit of a hothead. Some of you can relate. But my only pushback to my guy Dick here would be, I believe the current state of the program, despite those losses, and even if we had another loss, is so incredibly strong. And I believe that there's a reason that all these people are picking us number 1, because everybody sees the current state of the program and the strength of the program. And you can say that needs to translate into wins or it means nothing. And that's true. But it's incredibly hard to win a national championship. And sometimes losses are going to happen along the way. And yes, you need to win the game. But sometimes fluky things happen. And I more want to judge how they play. Does this team play like a team that looks like an absolute juggernaut all year? Maybe they lose on a bad bounce. You know what I mean? Like, things can happen. There's more nuance to it than just win or lose. The program's so rock solid. The class coming in, the coaching staff, the way it's currently made up, the important coaches on the staff, all extended through 25. The fact that Ryan Day has changed the way he's going to be conducting his game day duties, he's restructured his entire role. And I'm not saying this for him. I think it's in our best interest. But forget him. I know that it feels like, all right, if you lose this game, like, screw you, you're out. And it's almost like maybe a revenge, like one piece that we're not letting you do this again to us. But I just think from our standpoint, it's in our best interest to just say, like, 2 years, man. You got 2 years to make this work now with the way you got everything running. And I feel like that's in the administration's best interest as well, regardless of what the results are next year, and more about how this team plays. You got all these guys to come back. I mean, the culture's amazing. All the support they're getting financially from all of us. Coach Day seems to have taken his medicine. Listen to people like D and Daniel Sanchez, Devin Sanchez's parents. Like that's a couple that is very much in the know. They know the game. And I don't mean the game of football, which they know. I mean the game. That's why they are going out talking to other parents. And other parents are listening to them because they know what's going on. You know, they're stumping publicly for Ryan Day and his program on a daily basis. And their opinion, I think, represents a whole lot of folks in their position. And that's very difficult to recreate. You don't just go out and hire a new coach and that stays the same. It's taken 5 years to build to that point. And tearing that down and starting all over when it's right now at its peak, I just think it's a risky move, man. It's a risky move. Now, they sent their son to play for Ryan Day's Ohio State program, and so many others are too, because they believe in it. And they're far from the only ones. Look at the players we're pulling, man. I mean, it's wild. Here's a quote from David Sanders' mom. "We really loved Ohio State. And from a football standpoint, it's a land of opportunity for David to develop." Now, some people don't think statements like that mean anything. everything has context. Let's listen to her statement about Alabama. I think what excites us the most about Alabama is the new flair. I'd rather be the land of opportunity for David to develop as a football player than the place that has the flair. Talk about the recruits from Alabama coming up here, the way Ryan Day sees the moment. Listen, we all know that Ohio State benefited the most from Nick Saban's retirement. That didn't just happen because it was Ohio State. Ryan Day positioned the program to do that. He got aggressive. He went and hired Sam Petito. He got in there tight, and he kind of ran circles around his opponents when it came to getting in immediately with Naeem Offord, Malik Autry, Ziggy Grady, like getting in there, and we're going to stake our claim right here, and we're going to try to do this big time. We're going to get Caleb Downs. We're going to get McLaughlin. And nobody else was able to do that. LSU and Texas are right there. They weren't able to do it. Ryan Day did it. So I think it's very impressive and very rare. And if someone wants to come on and talk about it, I would love to talk to you about it. If you have the opposite opinion, have a little civil discourse, send me an email. But the comparisons to Cooper at this point are just absurd. I really think they are. Let's not forget, Cooper's last 2 seasons, he was 6-6 and 8-4 as the head coach at Ohio State. Imagine Ryan Day going 6-6. If you choose to tear this down because of a loss against Michigan, at the exact moment that Oregon is peaking, you could set yourself back several years. You really could. This isn't the old Big Ten anymore, where we can just roll our helmets out there and win the Big Ten championship. So I just really believe 2 years at this point is the best way to go. And as this is all coming out of my mouth, the other day I was responding to someone in the comments about this, and I was asked, okay, tough guy, not in those words, what if they also lose to Penn State? Yeah, get up out of here. You know what I mean? Yeah, no, you can't have that too. You can't have 3. All right. So, yeah, I'm speaking out of both sides of my mouth, but you can't lose 3. But the Cooper stuff is ridiculous, man. I'm curious how you guys feel about Cooper. I've tried over the years to forgive Cooper and think about the good. You know, the fact that he hangs around the program, I think is crazy. Like, does Cooper know that so many people just absolutely loathe him? I was listening to Berm the other day, and he was saying that of all the people that hang out at the Woody, all the old personalities and stuff, he's never befriended or had any kind of relationship at all with John Cooper. And he doesn't know if it's subconscious, but he's just never tried because there's always like this maybe simmering animosity. And I feel the same way about the guy. I don't want to. It's not his fault. I mean, he couldn't get it done. But just personally, like I feel like I dislike that man. Could have something to do with the frown always on his face. I mean, he never looks happy. But pretty wild. So we've got a lot of recruiting stuff to go over. There's a ton of visits going on this week. And I am going to go get dressed, go to this wedding. And when I come back, we're going to get to that. We're going to watch some film. But before we do that, I want to show you this. Jordan Davison tweeted this right after Chip and Lachlan came and visited. And then Kevin Noon of Buckeye Huddle asked Chris Henry Jr. what that meant. Chris Henry Jr. sends the eyeballs. Chris Henry Jr., of course, his teammate, Jordan Davison's teammate at Mater Day, the eyeballs in the nut. So I'm feeling really good about Jordan Davison. I think this is a done data. Oregon was the other one in the running. Oregon just signed De'Aaron Hill. We talked about De'Aaron. De'Aaron was in the cards for us. And like our buddy Max Torres, crystal ball, he did end up signing with Oregon or committing to Oregon. So De'Aaron Hill off the table. Jordan Davison, I think he's a Buckeye. Great news. And we need Bo. We need Bo. We can't lose Bo to Georgia. That would just be crushing. Absolutely crushing. Must be like what they feel when they lose some of their big dogs up here to us. We're not used to going the other way. I mean, I know they got Ryan Montgomery, but we couldn't get Ryan Montgomery with Tavian St. Clair in the class. So a lot of recruiting stuff to go over to, ton of big visits, and a lot of film to watch. And we're going to do that when I wrap up with this wedding. But maybe I'll pump this one out first so that you guys got something to watch this afternoon. And we'll do the second part of the episode tomorrow. So, all right, sounds good. I'll see you guys soon. And when I do, I'll be looking all spiffy. All right, Juck on Bucks out.